Man, we got one more episode left, and let's just say in this episode, we got a bomb that dropped towards the end, and I was gagged. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to KRS TV. This is your boy Kenny, and this is How to Get Away with Murder Season 5, Episode 13, and the name of this episode is Where Are Your Parents? Yeah, because this was a really good episode, and, pretty much the episode is taking place around the Christmas holiday. And we see that, in the beginning of the episode, we see that, Laurel, has got money to get, decorations for the house. They got a tree, and this is Christopher's first Christmas. And then all of a sudden we see that Laura gets a call for somebody, sounding like they're in shock, or, they're breathing very hard, and she's thinking it's her mother. And next thing you know, the person hangs up. So pretty much, Connor is even looking kind of suspicious, like, what the hell is going on here? So then we see that Annalise and her mom, played by the incomparable Cicely Tyson, and shout out to Cicely Tyson. She's not too long ago received her honorary Oscar for her successful career as an actress, and I have to say it is well deserved. And tell you the truth, they should have given her that a long time ago, because Cicely Tyson is a legend. She's in her 90s. She looks amazing, and she's still working. So I give nothing but praise and admiration for this great woman. So we see that Cicely Tyson's back on the show. She comes to Annalise's new house or whatever, her new apartment. She's like, "Girl, from way this looks like we in a hotel." And she's like, "Well, this is my new apartment." Annalise got the place decked out, got a nice tree, presents everywhere, So we pretty much see that, that Annalise is living her best life. But then, of course, she asks Annalise, "Why am I here?" And she's like, "I wanted to, spend Christmas with you, and I want you to myself." And she pretty much tells Annalise that she's proud of her. And then we pretty much see that she gets a call, and it's Agent Telesco. That's the FBI agent who we saw in the last episode, is put together this big map, and everybody's involved. Annalise, the kids, Sam, Lala Stangard, everybody that has been involved in anything. She's mapping out everything, and she's trying to put everything together. So she calls, so Agent Telesco calls Annalise and tells her that I want you to come in, to ask some questions, and I'll give you immunity for all of it. And then she also lets her know that she knows about her trying to adopt Wes. So this pretty much, I have to say, this whole episode, Agent Telesco was just making some slick moves like shit. But then her ass gets checked by the end, and I'm going to get to that. So then we see that Frank goes to talk to Gabriel, and he's there to make amends, and he said that, "Look, I was just keeping tabs on you to see what you was up to, whether you were a bad guy. Because I could have told Annalise months ago who you were, but now she's mad at me because I didn't tell her. But if I knew you were a bad guy, I would have been blew the whistle on you." But then he was saying that, so then he asks him, "So why are you still here? Why aren't you at home for Christmas?" Because he says that his mom asks a lot of questions, and my job is to protect my mother because I'm afraid if I give her any bad news, she'll go back on the pills again. And he was saying that, and he was saying Frank was like, "That's a good thing because, she deserved better than Sam, and so did you." So he's just hearing all this stuff about Sam being a bad guy, but in the back of his mind, he doesn't want to accept that. So then we also, because also in the last episode, they found Miller's body, and they pretty much said that he was unrecognizable by the time they found him, because they put bleach on him, and he's discolored and all of that. So then at the funeral, Bonnie's there because Bonnie feels guilty, and she's there with Asher. And we see the mother speaks, and the mother's breaking down because here it is, she lost her husband, and now she lost her son, so now she's alone. And we even see that this even breaks down Bonnie. And then when they, after the service, Bonnie goes to talk to her mother. She goes to talk to Miller's mom, and we see that even Asher has a moment where he says that I was his intern, he really believed in me. And then all of a sudden Asher kind of broke down. He's like, excuse me, because Asher really became close with Miller because Miller gave him a chance after Annalise kicked him out the clinic. So we see that Asher feels some way about it. And then Miller, so therefore we see that Miller's mom and Bonnie have a conversation about the governor being involved. And she says that I want you to help, I want you to get these people that did this, I want them prosecuted, and I want them to get the death penalty so I can watch them die. And I'm like, Bonnie, you were getting too involved, and yet you're the one who pretty much finished off Miller. So it's crazy. So I'm like, damn, Bonnie has gotten too involved to the point that she's damn near making herself sick. And they're also reporting it on TV. Laura turns off the TV. She's saying that, look, we're not going to have that type of energy in this house right now because it's the Christmas holiday. And then we also come to find out that Connor's mom is coming. That Connor's mom is coming. And and they said that we got to keep up a good front with my mother so she doesn't go to jail because she could probably easily figure something out. And then Oliver kind of told Connor like, well, she didn't know your dad was gay for 20 years, so I think she'll be fine. I thought that was hilarious. And then we also see that Nate comes over Annalise's house because we see that they have Christmas dinner. We see that at the house with Connor and Oliver, in the crew, they're having Christmas dinner, and then Annalise is having a Christmas dinner, and Nate shows up, and that Annalise's mom loves her some Nate, and she was asking, is your dad going to be joining us for dinner? And we can see that this also kind of makes Nate feel some kind of way because we all know that Nate Sr.'s dead. And then she's like, that's okay, we'll talk about it later. And then we pretty much see that then we actually see that Annalise and her mother have a conversation. And because she pretty much overhears Nate and Annalise talking, and she's pretty much saying that they're offering me immunity and everything if I talk, and he says that you should take it. She was like, I'm not gonna see you go down for this, and he was like, well, that didn't stop you before when you got me sent to jail. And she said that, look, I don't know what I'm gonna do about this yet, but when I make my decision, that will be the end of it. And she kind of like just blows Nate off. And while she was in bed with her mother, she pretty much says that, I heard you and Nate talking about some deal. You need to kind of slow your roll, Annalise, because Nathaniel is a good man. And she's like, he's not as good as you think. And then they end up going to bed. So therefore, we see back at the house, with the crew, Christopher's taking pictures with Santa Claus, and they just having like a good old time. And pretty much they're saying that no photos because they got rid of all the wedding photos and stuff. And then we see that Frank comes over and tells them that Gabriel is going to spend Christmas with you guys because the closer we'll keep him, the more he'll work with us because he's alone. So, and he said that I even convinced Asher to bring, so he's going to be coming with Asher. And then also Michaela and Laurel mentioned to Frank about that Laurel got this crazy call and she thinks it's her mother. And she's like, well, we'll get to the bottom of that, soon enough if anything goes wrong. But right now, just be chill. And yeah, Gabriel's coming over. Then we get a scene with Tegan and Telasco. Telasco then follow Tegan at her house and approaches her. And she's saying that I'm going to be questioning Annalise. And Tegan was like, look, I brought up that situation with Miller. She doesn't know anything. But she was like, yeah, but I do know that you've been invited to Annalise's for dinner. And she was like, why are you working? I mean, don't you have, somewhere to be? And Telasco was like, no, I didn't get invited to Annalise's for dinner like you. I'm like, oh, see, Telasco is really making some slick ass moves, and she's working through the Christmas holiday. So then we get a scene between Frank and Nate at Annalise's house. Pretty much he tells Frank that Annalise could get immunity if she actually talks to the FBI agent. And Frank was like, yeah, she should take it. And then she was saying that after all, she's the only one that hasn't done what we've done. And then we see that Nate just frowns up. I'm like, he's telling the truth. Annalise is the only one that hasn't killed anybody. So then we also see at the house, Bonnie's there, and Bonnie's going through it too. And pretty much, Bonnie and Annalise have a moment, and she was like, look, Bonnie, you need to stop. You should not have went to that funeral. It's eating away at you. And then we see that Tegan and Emmett come because she invited them. And she's like, Tegan, you actually trust her? And she tells Bonnie, I don't know who to trust at this point because everybody's lying to her. So we saw that go on. Then we see Asher and Gabriel show up, and Connor's mom is there. And we remember at the mid-season finale, Asher and Connor's mom were getting really friendly out in the parking lot. So Connor is doing everything he can to separate them. Soon as Asher and Gabriel show up, she tells Asher to take off his shirt because she had made Christmas sweaters for everybody. And then pretty much Connor pulls Asher's side like, look, don't be nice to my mom. He's like, okay, fine. I can just kind of give her, the cold shoulder like I do other people that I don't want to mess with no more. And then we see that Gabriel and Laurel have a moment. He was like, I thank you for inviting me. And Laurel's like, we didn't invite you. Frank told us to invite you. And she says, so just enjoy yourself and no flirting with Michaela. And then we see that Michaela and him lock eyes. I'm like, there's going to be, him and Michaela are going to end up getting together. It's just a matter of time. So then we see at Annalise's house, they pretty much break bread and everything, and Emmett does a toast. And then his mother was like, who are you? And she's like, that's Emmett, that's my boss. And she was like, the way you've been talking about him, I would think he was your new boyfriend. And then she tells a story about Annalise, calls her Anna Mae because that's her birth name. She says when Anna Mae was little, the teacher had called me to school and saying that Anna Mae ain't been eating her lunch. And I was like, I know. And she's like, I dare you try to accuse me of not taking care of my child because I make sure she has lunch every day. And excuse me. And what they find out, and she says what I found out was that when she was on her way to school, she would give her lunch to a homeless man along the when she was on her way to school, she would see this homeless man and she would give the homeless man her lunch. And she says that's why she is a lawyer and that's why she's a teacher, my generous baby girl. And you see Annalise feels some kind of way about that. But I actually think that was true because even though the mother, has dementia, she has moments where she remembers things and has moments where she doesn't, and then sometimes she mixes things up. So we saw that go down. So then we see at the crew at their dinner, we see that Connor has arranged for Asher to sit all the way on the other side of the table away from his mom. But then I had to say I love Connor's mom because she's just started in. She was like, are you serious, Connor? Like, look, yeah, that wasn't my finest moment at the reception, but hey, I'm grown and he's grown and we got needs and we just did something about it. And she says, besides, You know, wasn't I the same mother when you were a teenager? I allowed you to have sex with a 23-year-old man up in my house, you know? And she pretty much said that, look, you know, people need to understand how much parents sacrifice for their children. Which brings me to question, where are your parents? Because I'm pretty sure your parents are feeling really hurt right now that around this time of the year, y'all not spending time with your parents, you're not calling them or nothing. Like, what's going on? But then, because Connor was like, well, you're here, Mom. She's like, yeah, but I'm talking about all of y'all. Like, where are your parents? And I was like, I love Connor's mom, because Connor's mom is so down to earth. Totally different from the father. Because the father is very, you know, very opinionated and very, very somewhat, tough. Whereas the mom is very down to earth and very open. But I was just loving it when she checked Connor's ass. I'm like, yeah, you up there mad that he had sex with your mom. But she's like, look, he grown, I'm grown. It wasn't my fondest moment. But hey, we got needs. We did what we had to do. And hey, I let you do what you do. You need to stop cock blocking me. So I thought that was hilarious. And then we see all of them feel some kind of way because we all know that a lot of their parents are not involved in their lives. We know about Connor's. We know about we know about Connor's parents. We definitely know what's going on with Oliver's parents. You know, his father is out of town, but he keeps in touch with his mom. But we know that Asher's father committed suicide, and his mother pretty much rejected him afterwards. So he has no connection to his mom. Michaela's adopted, and then Laurel, her father's in jail, and her mother is somewhere. So we all know why they don't have have no connection with their parents. But then while all this is going on, they get a knock on the door. It's Talasco's ass. So I'm like, Talasco is busy as shit, and she making snake moves. She's there saying that we got a warrant for your wedding photos. So then we get a scene after that with Emmett and Annalise, and you can tell there is some chemistry between the two of them because he's putting up with the leftovers and all that, and he pretty much says that, look, this is the first time I felt at home in a long time, and I like to thank you for that. And we just see the two of them lock eyes, and I was like, ooh, like Emmett really is feeling Annalise. And Annalise was like, it's getting late, and he ends up going because he's staying at a hotel. But he said that this is the first time he really had that home feeling when Annalise invited him. So he's really connected to Annalise. And I was like, and we see that Emmett has a thing for women that he works with, obviously. So we saw that go on. So then we see that Talasco pretty much decides to take Oliver's laptop, for, investigation. So, and of course they're all panicking, and they're trying to have this conversation around Connor's mom. But Connor's mom is kind of wondering, like, look. And then we also see that Laurel hides, the bloodstained, coat of Christopher's. She hides it in the crib. And she's pretty much said that, because, while Connor's mother was there, we see that Connor got his mother's phone and erased that photo with him and his mom and Asher, because in the background there's Nate and Miller, which will make Nate the main suspect. Excuse me. And Connor's mother approaches him about that. She was like, what's going on here? You made me erase that photo. What's going on? And Connor is really trying to calm her down, but Asher comes in and saves the day, and he was saying that, look, he pretty much says that, look, the reason why Connor didn't tell you about this because he didn't want your memories of the wedding to be ruined. And we just see that Connor just looks simple. I'm like, yeah, you've been giving him all this hell about sleeping with your mom, but at that moment you see that he's still your friend and he has your back. But we all know how Connor is. Connor is always over the top. That's why him and Oliver, aka Olive Oil, because I call him Olive Oil when Oliver be tripping. But the two of them deserve each other because they both had their problem. When they get into a situation, they usually will make it a bigger explosion, or they just flip out. So then afterwards we have a scene with Michaela and Gabriel. Michaela gives him a bottle of wine, and he's saying that, everybody's saying that my father Sam was a bad guy. What did you think of him? And she says, I barely knew him. But then they go with a flashback at that day when, where Sam gets killed, and they show him when he falls off of the ledge of the stairs. And he says, just tell me one thing. And she's like, look, I can't tell you anything. And then he starts to ask Michaela, what about your birth parents? Don't you want to find out who they are? And she's like, well, look how it turned out for you. And he was like, are you happy? He's like, yeah, I'm happy because at least I know something. And she was like, first of all, he impregnated a student and then had her killed, talking about Lila Stangard. And she was like, so what's good about that? And he's like, and she says that, but he was saying that, but don't you want to know the truth about your parents and what happened? And she's like, look, I don't feel abandoned. He was like, I don't believe you. And she's like, you know what? I'm taking my wine back. Fuck you. And I was like, Gabriel just keeps trying to fish because he wants to know the truth and he doesn't want to accept that his father was this bad person. But bruh, he dumped your mother to marry one of his students, and he started messing with Annalise while she was one of his students and one of his clients too. So Sam was a piece of shit. But Gabriel doesn't want to accept that. So again, I said that Telasco takes Oliver's laptop, and she says, we'll be in touch. So, like, Telasco just doing the most. Then we see that Frank and Bonnie, have a moment. Frank pretty much tells Bonnie, because she's in bed, because we see that earlier Tegan had ran into Bonnie. She says, I'm sorry to hear about your loss, and I can't even imagine what you're going through. And she said, how did you know about me and Miller? And she says, well, we have friends at the DA's. And what, was it not public? And she said no. And then she's like, I'm not feeling well. So I'm like, okay, what's really going on? Frank's there telling her about, because they filled Frank in about what happened, because afterwards they called Frank and told him that Telasco came and they seized Oliver's laptop. But Oliver assures them that, look, and they won't be able to get anything off of my laptop unless they know my passwords, which they don't have. So whatever they can get, they're going to get, but they won't get none of my personal stuff. But then he sees that Bonnie's going through it, and he tells her that, look, I'm sorry I didn't go to the funeral with you. I'm sorry, I should have been there. And then Bonnie tells him, I'm a week late. I've been feeling dizzy and nauseous. So I'm like, immediately I started screaming like, oh shit, is Bonnie pregnant with Miller's baby? That's really gonna be crazy. So then he pretty much says that, look, you should take a pregnancy test, and you got me. I'm here for you. So then we see that Annalise is pretty much at the house with the crew. They are all spiraling out of control like they usually do when something happens. And she actually tells them that, look, they actually, she says, I'm going to be talking to Agent Telasco. And then Connor was like, why are you talking to the FBI? She said that they want to interview me. But he says that, look, we've escaped so far. Why should that change? And, Connor lets them know that they can't get to none of my firewalls without my passwords. But then, but then Connor's mom was like, do you think we need to call your father? And he's like, he does, he does tax law. Like, so no, don't involve dad in this. And then before Annalise leaves, Frank tells her like, oh yeah, I know about you getting immunity. And she says, did you tell Bonnie? And he was like, no. She says, good, keep it that way. So she ends up leaving. So then we actually see that there's another moment between Nate and Annalise's mom. And she gives him a present, to let him know that me and your father actually we kept in touch with each other since the Supreme Court hearing. And we've been writing back and forth with each other. And he was so proud of you. And we see towards the end of the episode, Nate starts to read the letters that his father was writing to Annalise's mom. So I thought that was cool. And then, like, next thing you know, we see that Annalise walks in, and he was like, for the life of me, I can't understand why the two of y'all keep getting into trouble. But then he says, whatever it is, y'all need to help each other, and maybe y'all can get married, so you won't have to testify against each other. Don't they call that spousal privilege? But she's like, well, never mind. I'll just mind my own business. I'm like, she is really trying to set the two of them up. And I'm just so here for Annalise's mom. But she made a good point. Then we see back at, the house, Connor and Oliver are going for a walk or whatever. And she's like, oh. And then Connor's mom is sitting on the porch like, oh, you guys just went for a long walk. So I wouldn't hear your conversation. And then Oliver's like, oh, yes, you wouldn't want to hear the boring conversation. I didn't even want to hear it. And she's like, Connor, you're a great singer, but you're a terrible liar. I'm like, she just shut his ass down. And she talks to Connor by himself. And she's like, tell me the truth. And he says, if I tell you, you can't tell Dad. And she says that, look, the governor has been coming after Annalise since the Supreme Court hearing. And now they're coming for us, so they'll make us drop our clients. So he pretty much, told her a lie to keep her at ease. And we can kind of tell once he hugs his mom, he kind of gives that look because he didn't tell his mother the full truth. And but then he pretty much says that, you always told me, the whole idea of doing something that's bigger than yourself, and she pretty much tells him that, look, I hate all this, but I'm proud of you, son. But we can kind of tell you because that look is, he straight up lied to his mom. And then we see back at Annalise's house, the mother is talking to Annalise's dad, and she's saying, hey, Big Daddy, I can't wait to get home to you, Big Daddy. And we see that Annalise, that the mother's, preparing to go back home. And, while this is going on, we see that Annalise and her mother have a conversation. And she tells her mother about Sam had a son with his first wife, and he never told me about it. And she was like, that bastard. And she says that every man that I've let into my life has hurt me. And I can't forgive like you can forgive Dad because the dad hurt the mother. And we've definitely seen that she has a lot of this anger and tension against her father. We saw the last time she saw him, we saw her hug her dad or whatever, but there's still a lot of tension there between her and her dad. And she says, I'm at to this point now, I don't want to let anybody else in. And why is it that I always gotta save everyone, even if it kills me? What about saving myself? And she pretty much says that, look, I know you don't understand why I still love your daddy, but loving him fills me up. Because loving your daddy wasn't for him, it was for me. Because I have unconditional love for him, and it lifts me up. Just like my love for you lifts me up. And she's saying that, but then she was like, and she's like, I just wish you would understand how a mother loves her child. And I'm sad that you never got an opportunity to know what that feels like. But she says, but you got Nathaniel. And, and you need to hold on to him. But, but she's like, but how it is that I'm supposed to be about loving other people, what about me loving myself? And she says that, well, how can you love yourself if you hurt people? So they actually have a very good moment. And I have to say, Viola Davis and Cicely Tyson do great together in these scenes. And I'm so here for it. So then afterwards, we see that Annalise called Talasco and she said, we meet tomorrow at 3. And she says, do you want to do the immunity? She says, okay, yeah, print the papers out. And we see why she makes that call. Talasco is in the car with Tegan. And pretty much they go back and forth between, Tegan and Talasco. She's like, you're giving her immunity? And Tegan and Talasco's like, well, unless you think she doesn't deserve it. And then they see that both of them go back and forth, and she says that right now I don't have anybody to protect me. I'm scared. And Talasco's like, you don't need to be scared. I've always looked after you. Then she starts naming all the things she does daily. So she been trailing Tegan for a minute, ever since she gave up, Antares. And then the next thing you know, we see the two of them lip locking and everything. And I was like, what? Yeah, I was like, Tegan was getting her life. And I was like, so Talasco and Tegan end up doing, they end up doing the damn thing. Then we see that Annalise goes to see Talasco, and then we also see that Gabriel talks to his mom, and he kind of embellishes her, and then he says that, yeah, I recently talked to Michaela, and so we see that he's still, playing the game with his mom or whatever. Bonnie takes a pregnancy test and finds out that she's not pregnant, and then we also see that Nate reads the letters from his father that he was sending to Annalise's mother. And then we see that Laurel, after she looks at the blood-stained jacket of Christopher's. This bitch calls Talasco and says she want to talk to her. And I'm like, Laurel, you sneaky ass. Ooh, Laurel gets on my nerves. I'm like, Laurel's a bitch, and she just can't help it. She's that person that can't let nothing go. And she just really pissed me off with that. So what? You gonna try to put this on Bonnie? And then we see that that the head of the FBI comes in, and I'm thinking he's talking to Annalise. No, he's talking to Tegan. Tegan gives up Talasco, is saying that she was actually looking after me, but now that me and her crossed this line, I'm afraid now for our safety, so I need somebody else that can protect me that's not going to cross the line. And this whole time, Annalise is waiting for Talasco, and she's been waiting for at least over an hour or two. And Talasco hasn't showed up. Then we see that the head of the FBI meets with Talasco, and he's saying that you have done a lot of infringent things with your cases. He talks about her planning the stuff in Gabriel's house, and then she talks about also you slept with an informant. Like, you have made too many, bad moves. And he says, I know you are about this case, but takes her off the case indefinitely. And then we see that one of the agents go and tells Annalise, I'm sorry, but Talasco's not going to be able to meet with you. We need to schedule this another time. So Annalise definitely is pissed because you just wasted her time, and she doesn't even know why the meeting got canceled. But later on, we see that Annalise gets the word from Tegan that, look, I got Talasco off the case to protect you. So she gave up Talasco to help Annalise, and now she's off the case. You can sleep well because it's going to be a while for they get a new agent before they put a new agent on the case, and it's going to be a while for them to catch up. So Tegan did that to get Talasco off of Annalise's back. So we can definitely tell that Tegan still got the thing for Annalise as well. And then we see that Annalise gets a call. And later on we find out the person that called her was the governor, Governor Burkhead. They meet at, this church or whatever, and she says that, look, I wanted to meet you because I got some information for you, and I'm trying to let you know I had nothing to do with this. And Annalise was like, shit, if you was gonna lie to me, you could have did that on the phone instead of make me come all the way out here. And then and then Annalise about to walk away, and then she says, I know who killed Nate Sr. And then she gives her a folder, and she says it was Emmett Crawford. I was like, oh shit! Wow! So all this time, Emmett was could possibly be the one that killed Nate's father. That's gonna be some crazy shit. And he had motive because Annalise left to work with the governor. Because Annalise went to go work with the governor, and we saw how pissed off he was at that. So, and we definitely even said back then, it's possible that Emmett could have killed Nate's dad. But, he showed all of his condolences at the time, so we totally kind of disregarded that. But now that the governor is bringing it back that Emmett was the one who had Nate's father killed, we got to keep seeing. So we now realize that Annalise is now getting some information. We're going to see what Annalise is going to do with that. So that's what I have, y'all. If I missed anything, put it down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. But subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you get notifications every time I drop a video. Also, follow me on all of my social platforms. I have them all listed in the description box. Also, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And I'll be back with the next episode of How to Get Away with Murder. So until next time, everybody, take care.